All right, class. So we have a brief chapter on pest management. We'll talk about pesticides, problems, and how they are controlled. So the enemies of our enemies are our friends. So for example, wasps and natural predators of insect pests are good. Pesticides can kill all insects, but we need to balance the positive and negatives of those pesticides. So a pest is any organism that interferes with our welfare or activities. We can have insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, and rodenticides. The broad spectrum pesticide can kill a variety of organisms, but the ideal pesticide would be very narrow for very specific. First generation of pesticides were inorganic, botanicals, try to kill off very specific items. Second generation pesticides were a little bit more broad and dangerous, like synthetic poisons and DDT. We have over 20,000 different pesticides currently existing. And this was a look of a picture applying DDT in 1945. Major groups of insecticides, we have chlorinated hydrocarbons, organophosphates, and carbonates. Major kinds of herbicides, we have herbicides which kill or inhibit growth of unwanted vegetation. They can be classified as to what type of plant they kill. We can have glyphosate, which is like Roundup. It can be highly toxic to amphibians. Benefits of pesticides, they can control disease. So it will allow for a greatly increased amount of corn growth, for example, and that can help combat world hunger. However, very negatives of pesticides are that it can kill off and be very harmful to both human and animals. So for example, some disease control, in terms of malaria, DDT was focused on killing mosquitoes that had malaria, which could save lives. In Sri Lanka, DDT was used to control mosquitoes, and there was nearly zero malaria deaths that year. Whereas in 1968, there were over 1 million malaria cases when DDT was not used. So locations of malaria and how DDT can be used to combat the effects of a disease by killing off some of those disease-carrying mosquitoes. More benefits, crop protection. Pests eat and destroy about a third of the world crop, so farmers save about $3 to $5 for every $1 they invest in pesticides. Pests focus on crops because they are monocultures, and pesticides can reduce crop loss to weeds, insects, and plant pathogens. But problems with pesticides is the evolution of genetic resistance to different pesticides. 520 pests have developed a genetic resistance, and over 17 species are resistant to all pesticides farmers are using. So we get into this pesticide treadmill where the more pesticides you use, the stronger the resistance will be created. So more and more pesticides must be used in greater concentration to actually kill off the pests. There's an imbalance to the ecosystem. Spraying to kill pests can also affect birds, rabbits, etc. And despite the 33-fold increase in pesticides, crop loss has actually not decreased too much because they're gaining resistance. Also, we can get a creation of new pests that are becoming resistant to these pesticides. More problems, there can be bioaccumulation, biological magnification, which is a buildup of a persistent pesticide or other toxic substance in organisms' bodies. There can be biological magnification, which is an increased concentration of toxic chemicals in tissues of organisms at high trophic levels. Mobility in the environment. Pesticides do not stay where they are applied. They will travel through the air and affect others. At least one pesticide found in urban streams is above concentration, and then it can affect other organisms. Risks of pesticides to human health. Short-term effects, it can cause food problems like nausea, vomiting, headaches, or damage to your nervous system. About 4 million people are poisoned each year from pesticides. And long-term effects of pesticides can be cancer, breast cancer, sterility, miscarriage, birth defects, and decreases the body's ability to fight infection, and a potential connection to Parkinson's disease. They can disrupt the endocrine system, which meaning pesticides can be like a hormone. They can mimic hormones and then disrupt your endocrine system. So this is a look at the pesticides as an endocrine disruptor and what exactly it can do and general information about it. Alternatives to pesticides, so using cultivation methods to control pests like interplant mixtures of plants, strip cutting, proper timing of rotation. Interplanting results from Kenya. We have corn damage 5% when intercropped and 39% in a monoculture. So kind of using crop rotation and proper timing of plant rotation. Alternatives to pesticides, biological control, so use of naturally occurring organisms like the Bacillus thuringius, must take care that it's introduced does not attack other things. Pheromones and hormones, so by applying insect hormones at the wrong time in the life cycle, insects could be killed off, or using reproductive controls like sterile male techniques. Large numbers of males can be sterilized in labs and then released. Genetic controls or quarantining some of the exotic plants and animals. Systems approach integrated pest management is the combination of pest control methods that keeps pest populations low without an economic loss, and using all of these different techniques for a type of natural pest control. You can see that here using hedges, trees, as so forth. Systems approach this integrated pest management, so decreasing the amount of pesticide use throughout the years can increase the rice population, as shown there. Irradiating food using cold pasteurization, so harvested food is exposed to ionizing radiation, which kills organisms. This is used on meat, and it's somewhat controversial due to the potential for free radicals, but that's one option. And just avoiding pesticide use at home. So using alternatives, best solutions are just preventative pests and then natural pesticides. There's different laws that were created to control pesticide use, and then the manufacture and use of banned pesticides is shown here. The dirty dozen of pesticides, an important chart to potentially remember for you as well. So quick chapter on pests and pesticides, and I'll see you for our final chapter.